This is TWiT.
This hits home, Parris Lilly. Video, you remember the sag-aftra strike, the writers' strike? Well, now video game performers are striking over similar concerns, artificial intelligence taking their jobs. It's another strike. How is this going to impact the video game community?
It could be huge, because if the strike is extended and these voice actors and performers are basically out for a while, then game development could be stalled on some of these big games and probably not even recent games that'll come out this year or in 2025, but even down the road, games that you might not see until 2026 could be affected by this, because you want to get those performances in, and they help dictate obviously where the game is headed in a development standpoint. So this is a big deal, and I'm actually glad that it is happening, because I think these voice actors do need to protect themselves against AI. I'll just add in that a few weeks back, Xbox invited me to sit down and hear their approach on how they're using AI, or how they're attempting to use AI in game development. And there's some things that I'm like, yeah, I can see how this will be helpful, but I can also see the other side where you potentially will be putting people out of jobs. And specifically about this from a voice acting standpoint, I'll just use Troy Baker as an example. He's very well-known voice actor in gaming. He's done things like The Last of Us. Matter of fact, the Indiana Jones game that's about to come out, he's like a dead ringer for Harrison Ford in that game. Under this, he's not protected of if AI could literally replace him, and now one of the most talented voice actors that we have in this industry is no longer needed, because they can just replicate his performance on any game. So I do think they need to strike. I do think, just like Hollywood did, they need to get some policies and basically some regulation in place on how this is going to be used.
At what point in making a game do they bring in the performers to act it out? I know when you're doing like cartoons, you do that almost at the beginning, because the animation has to match the voice. I guess it would be the same for games. I don't know. Yeah,
and again, I'm not an expert as far as that goes, just the limited knowledge that I do have on that. I think it is happening at various stages throughout the process of game development, which these big AAA games now, I mean, you're talking 4 or 5 years, during that cycle. Yeah. So that's why I was saying this strike right now could affect a game that you might not see 2 years from now.
You may remember that this is the second time they've been on strike. They went out at the same time as the writers went out a couple of years ago, but they've been in negotiation now for another 2 years, specifically over artificial intelligence protections. The SAG-AFTRA's negotiators say they have made gains over wages and job safety. So they've made progress, but they are split on how to regulate Gen AI.
Right.
And it makes sense. Do they routinely get performers to record enough material for the AI, or can they just use existing material and go from there?
And that, I would imagine that's part of why they're on strike right now. And that's why I brought up Troy Baker as an example, because it has such an extensive library, of work throughout the years. Can they just go back into his back catalog, so to speak, and use AI and teach AI how to replicate all his performances? And I'm like, okay, Troy, we don't need you for the next game in The Last of Us 3, because we already have your performance as Joel, as an example, right? So that would be the concern I think these actors would have, that even previous work they've done could be replicated with AI. And are they being compensated for this, or are they being, replaced altogether?
It's go ahead.
I do think there's another way to look at this, which is that, acting in games has been kind of stuck in the choose your own adventure model. Remember those books where it's like, okay, if you make this choice, turn to page 50. If you make this choice, turn to page 51. And game actors can only record kind of like what's in the script. If you go off script, that's where AI could actually do something creatively interesting. If you could imagine, essentially an AI, presumably based on a human actor, being able to kind of roll with any scenario that evolves organically within the game. But how do you compensate the human
Right.
actor for kind of the base persona of that in a way that's fair? But let's take as given that there are games that you can't create right now, not because it's too expensive to pay the actor, but it's like you would have to have the actor sitting there for decades recording all the possible permutations of gameplay.
So speaking on what you're saying, that's actually a great example. That's what Xbox was showing me a few weeks back. A scenario, let's say it's an open world game with NPCs that are populating it. Now their interactions with you are dynamic. So each player is having a unique experience compared to the other one because it's not following a set script. That's great. I think of sports games like NBA or Madden where you have the announcers. Now they can real time react to what's going on and they're not just following a script.
Yeah, because they always say the same stupid thing. I want to hear. I want more.
Yeah. And that's where, okay, I can see AI being beneficial in that aspect. Great. As a gamer, I would love to see that. But you also want to protect the people that are making these games and that are providing these performances, that if they're not being used and AI is randomly generating their performance, they're at least being compensated in some way.
Yeah, there should be a framework for that. I agree.
Yeah.
If they're using your voice. Now, did Harrison Ford get money for being...
Well, they're using his likeness, so I would imagine...
I guess he's getting paid for that, right?
Yeah, he's got to get something. Yeah. But Harrison Ford's not going to sit in a VO booth for a game, so you get a voice actor to replicate his performance.
I love the idea of having, how many times have you heard of getting an arrow shot in the knee, right? You want to give me another reason why you're no longer adventuring. I'd like to make up some new ideas. It isn't, by the way, just voiceover. The agreement covers more than 2,500 voiceover performers, but also on-camera performers, motion capture and stunt performers. There are quite a few of those. The coordinators for those stunts, singers, dancers, puppeteers, and background performers. There are a lot of humans involved in video game rendering these days, and they all want to make sure that they're protected against AI. Members voted overwhelmingly last year to give the leadership authority to strike. Of course, the movie studios made a deal with during the film and television strikes last year, I guess, and now they want to be protected as well. Well, we'll see if it holds up some big titles. It seems like it doesn't take much to hold up a big video game title these days. Hey, thank you for watching this little snippet from our big show, the News Roundtable, This Week in Tech. I'm Leo Laporte. Each week we cover the week's tech news, in-depth analysis, but it's also fun and engaging. You'll find it at twit.tv along with all of our shows. And if you want more, just hit the subscribe button, and we'll be sure to bring you a lot more great content. Thanks for listening.